Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. The Phils had a busy weekend up in the Bronx as they took 2 of 3 from the Yankees. We talk about all the action on today's episode.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You may know me from some of my other work in the sports talk space. I've been on air over at 97.5 The Fanatic doing sports talk radio here in Philadelphia for over 5 years. I've been a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member for the past 4 seasons, and this is now my 4th year as the host of Locked On Phillies. Please make sure that you're rating and reviewing if you're listening to us in podcast form. You can get us wherever you get your podcasts. We're also available on YouTube. And if you're checking us out on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Those things will get you notifications when new episodes are posted. It's all free and very easy to do. And I would really appreciate it if you did that. It helps us out here on Locked On Phillies tremendously. So thank you in advance. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. So go ahead and check them out. We've reached the week of Major League Baseball trade deadline. Thursday at 6 p.m. is when trades drop dead. Cannot happen past that time. Now we'll get some stuff trickling in after that. But because of that, we are going to talk about a little bit, another segment of a potential trade partner for the Phillies and what the Cleveland Guardians have to offer. We're also going to preview the Phillies' upcoming series with the White Sox. Starts tonight out there in Chicago. But first and foremost, we got to talk about a busy weekend in the Bronx. There is so much to break down from the 3-game series up at Yankee Stadium. First and foremost, Phillies fans, you're the absolute best. Like, I love you guys. I love being one of you guys because being up there in the Bronx, I went to Friday's game. I went to Saturday's game. If you follow our social media stuff here on Locked On Phillies, you saw me post the live reaction videos from inside Yankee Stadium. And it was amazing the way that Phillies fans turned out Friday and Saturday. And imagine Sunday was very similar up there at Yankee Stadium. It wasn't like mostly Phillies fans, but it was enough that there was some back and forth cheering going on when the games were tight. And then when they got out of hand, the Eagles chants got wild. Like the Let's Go Phillies chants got wild. It was an amazing experience seeing Phillies fans take over another building. And I rarely get a chance to travel with the team because I do the morning sports talk and I do this podcast and everything. So it's hard to get away during baseball season and actually go on the road with the team sometimes. Getting the chance to do that was really, really cool. So shout out to all the Phillies fans who were up there. If you ever get a chance to go to like one of these close proximity road games, you should do so. Especially if the Phillies plan on hitting the way they did in this series against the Yankees. 24 total runs for the Fightins against the New York Yankees up there, and it was an absolute barrage in the first 2 games. Now, I know what a lot of you were thinking. Well, Connor, you didn't stay for Sunday's game, and they lost, and they didn't really have great offense to show for it, even though Otto Kemp did go yard 2 times. You should have stayed in the Bronx for Game 3. Hey, listen. If you guys want to finance it for me to travel with the team so that they score 12 runs or 9 runs every game forever, feel free. But I don't see that happening. The bottom line is this. The first 2 games of the series were great offensively. 12-5 on Friday night. In a Taijuan Walker start where he gives up a home run in each of the first 2 innings. And you kind of felt like, this might not go the Phillies' way, especially with Aaron Judge on the other side and the Phillies' offense being streaky. And then the next thing you know, they score 4 in the 7th, 2 in the 8th, 4 in the 9th, and it becomes a nice, comfortable 12-5 victory. Your Kyle Schwarber, 2 home runs. You got to pay the man. You absolutely have to. JT Realmuto, big-time home run. Love that. But those are the only 3 home runs. Not that 3 is a minimal amount, but just everybody hit. Turner had 4 hits. Schwarber had 3, including those 2 home runs. Casty, 2 at night. JT, 2 at night. Stott a hit, Sosa a hit, Marsh a hit. I mean, you did all of that with Harper going 0 for 4. Harper didn't have a great series, but the offense showed up big time in Game 1. And in Game 2, where you win at 9-4, the offense showed up big time again. Believe it or not, Kyle Schwarber did not go yard in this game, but he was 2 for 5. Bryce Harper goes yard. Edmundo Sosa goes yard. And it was really nice to see what they did offensively. Even Otto Kemp's 2 home run game in the game that they lost. So that's the number one sign right there. This is what I've been trying to explain to people all year long, right? And I'm not doing this to be like, you guys are being mean to the Phillies. They're better than you think they are. No, that's not the argument. They're currently a game and a half back in the NL East as I'm recording this, right? So they need to improve at the trade deadline. And we're going to talk about that next, how they do that with a potential trade for the Guardians, or maybe how they can't do that with a potential trade with the Guardians. But my point is just this. If you are prioritizing a right-handed bat or any improvement to the lineup over the bullpen, you are flat out missing the point. That was my biggest takeaway from the Yankee series because the Phillies went up there and mashed. And that's a postseason. That team played in the World Series last year. I know they're not that team right now. And I know Aaron Judge was hurt for games 2 and 3 of the series. So you're not playing the best version of the Yankees. And I know they've had injuries throughout the year. So I'm not saying like, see, this Phillies team is unbelievable. I'm just saying this. The Phillies lineup can go out against anybody and hang 10 on them. And there are very few lineups in baseball that can do that. Now, are they going to do that consistently? No. Are they going to do that as consistently as a team like the Dodgers or the Cubs or something like that in the National League? The Tigers? No. So they're not the best offensive team in baseball. But when you look at the star power that the Phillies have and what it looks like when it's going good, you don't need as much for the lineup as you do for the bullpen. Because you know the amount of star power in the bullpen? None. Like, just none. You don't have it. The closest thing is Orion Kerkering, and that's because his name is basically a constellation or a star. And I'm not trying to take a shot at Orion there. I'm just saying, like, you don't have much in the bullpen. You have a lot in the lineup. Even if it doesn't look like it at times, you got to look at the names. You got to look at the stats, right? Over the course of these guys' career, over stretches of this season, the offense has been good enough. The bullpen, at like basically no point has it been sustainable at a level of a team that's going to compete for a World Series. So that's my main takeaway from the 2 wins there at Yankee Stadium is sell out on the bullpen, fix that before the trade deadline is over, and then find like an ancillary right-handed bat. Or maybe something more, but still, the bullpen's the number one priority, and it should be. There's one other thing from this series that I want to talk about. Well, let's do a quick injury update, right? Nick Castellanos, game 1, kind of jams his knee on the final out of game 1 in a 12-5 game. Like, how in the world does that happen? Anyway, he was out for game 2 Saturday. Made you a little bit nervous. Is he getting traded? Is he injured? What's going on? Then it comes out that he jammed his knee. He was fine. He played Sunday. Edmundo Sosa, Saturday's game. Going back on a fly ball, Brandon Marsh crushes him. Lack of communication, hits him in the lower back. Sosa was like face down on the field for a couple of minutes. And they help him walk off, and it looked really bad. He played the next day. So he's good to go as well. So his back, listen, I get it. Getting smoked like that in the lower back, especially when you start to get towards 30 or older than 30 in age. For a normal person, I'd be in a stretch, like in a wheelchair on a stretcher for like a month. Your back starts to get a little finicky when you get older. But Sosa's fine. Castellanos is fine. That's a good thing. So you had minor injury scares that happened in the series that did not extend past the series, which is great news. And the one other thing that we need to talk about is Zack Wheeler, right? Because he had another weird performance yesterday. He wasn't terrible. The Phillies lose 4-3, and Wheeler gave up some harder contact than he used to. But the biggest thing was the command issue, just hitting guys. Yankee is breaking balls to glove side. You don't see that often from Wheeler, and you've seen it now 2 starts in a row. Now, what's the level of concern with a guy like Zack Wheeler, who's still very much in the, if not leading the National League Cy Young race? My concern is, I don't know, 2%, 3% right now. It's just not high at all. Anyone who's looking at Wheeler is like biting their fingernails saying, is something going wrong with him? He's had 2 starts where he's looked rough. One of those starts was a 10-strikeout outing that the Phillies won. The other one was yesterday at Yankee Stadium. And that's just, like, that's going to happen. You're going to have weird stretches where there's a mechanical imbalance. You try and make the tweak. You try and fix it, and you move on. Now, this does mean that we're going to be watching his next start extra closely. Does he look like typical Zack Wheeler? Is he still yanking that breaking ball? Because there are some worst-case scenarios than mechanical imbalances, right? There's potential injury. Hey, why is he yanking across? Because I don't know, his lower back is hurt. So to turn, he's got to like push his back side of his body more. And that leads to him whipping across the zone and hitting left-handed hitters, right? I'm just throwing out a theory. So there could be something deeper going on here. I'm not there yet. We're not jumping to conclusions. We will get to that point if it gets to that point, and hopefully it does not get to that point. But I'm not overly concerned about Zack Wheeler. We're chilling on that front. We'll see what happens when he goes back out there again. But just a couple of uncharacteristic starts from him in a row. I still believe he's one of, if not the best pitcher on planet Earth right now. So we'll see. Sometimes he's like when he threw a complete game, near perfect game, I wasn't like, this is what he's going to do every day. I don't think yesterday is what he's going to do every day. I think it's just the ebbs and flows of a season. So if you're freaking out about Wheeler, I'd tell you not to. But hey, everyone's entitled to their opinion. We'll all be watching his next start closely. It will not happen in this series with the with the White Sox, though, which we will talk about later on. But first, yes, Guardians talk. What can the Phillies do with a potential trade with the Guardians? Well, that might have just changed significantly here today in the past couple hours. I'll tell you the big news surrounding one of the Phillies' big targets as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Let's talk about Monarch Money, though, because you ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. I say that slow enough for you? I need you to get this. Monarch Money can make managing your money feel easier. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Here's the thing. I'm about to go on vacation, right? I'm heading on a bachelor party to Ibiza. It's going to be expensive. It's probably against my better judgment to go. But you know how I know that I have the money needed to do it, or at least I can manage my other finances to get me to a point where I can survive this trip, is Monarch Money, because it shows me all of my accounts and trends and everything all in one easily consumable place. And if I was to share finances with someone, they'd be able to see that too, so they know how much that I'm taking care of stuff to get ready for vacation, saving right, spending right, all of that stuff. It helps you with all of these things. And it has everything, like I said, in one app, which makes it easier to manage the day-to-day, month-to-month, year-to-year, all of that stuff. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com, and you'll even get 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Go ahead and check out our friends over at Monarch Money. Potential trades with the Guardians. We did already. We've been doing this. So let me reset this, okay? We're doing, until the deadline, these potential trade packages, right? What could happen? What's probable to happen? Stuff like that. What are the teams that they look at? And we're breaking it down by team. So on Friday's episode, we talked about the Minnesota Twins, the Baltimore Orioles. Today, we're going to talk about the Guardians. There's also the Pirates out there, the Diamondbacks out there. There are plenty of teams that you can get into as far as who the Phillies could look to. The Athletics are out there. There's a bunch. But then who knows, a couple of days here, a couple of days there can change everything when it comes to the Major League Baseball standings. And this is why we've got to continuously be evaluating. Because if I had started off this little exercise of putting together trade packages with different teams, and I had done it with the Cleveland Guardians, guess what would have happened? I would have looked like, well, not like an idiot because it's not my fault, but it would have been invalid by today because we just got news that Emmanuel Clase, the stud closer of the Cleveland Guardians, is being put on the gambling exempt list or whatever. He's getting the same thing as other guys who have been questioned or caught for maybe some sneaky like gambling type things. He's unavailable until the end of August. I haven't seen whether or not his availability for the postseason is still intact, but bottom line is this. The Phillies are not going out and trading everything for a stud closer who is going to be unavailable for the next month. We've got Jose Alvarado at home, folks, and it's at least not costing you any prospects. So Clase, that's a bombshell, and it's not a good thing for the Phillies, right? Like it is and it isn't. it's a good thing that it happened now rather than retroactively to post-trade deadline time, because that would have really, really been a mess if the Phillies had traded for him and then this comes out and he gets caught and then he's on the gambling list or whatever and misses time. So I guess it's fine that it happened now, but that means other teams are going to change the price points of their relievers. The market just got thinner. This would be like if Emmanuel Clase signed with another team, was traded to another team, and the Phillies didn't get him. Your immediate thought then would be, hey, Dombrowski, wake up. One less reliever on the market. Let's do something. And it effectively has the same effect on the Phillies' plan, right? Now, this could be a benefit in a certain way. Hear me out on this one, right? If you're, let's say, the Athletics, and you were iffy, 50-50, right in the middle, on potentially trading Mason Miller. They're a big-time closer. Great arm. Phillies fans would love to have him. And you're like, we're right on the fence. We get the news that Emmanuel Clase has been put on this gambling list as ineligible to play until the end of August. Teams are going to back off of him because of that. The market just got thinner. Well, now the people with valuable assets say, hey, these assets I can now charge more for. So I was an economics major in college, right? I have a degree in it. So I will tell you this right now. Very detailed economics here that I remember well from my time at Great Washington College. When there's less of something, it is rarer. When it's rarer, the price goes up. If there's only one of something in existence, that thing is probably going to be pretty expensive. If there's a million of somethings, those things are probably going to be pretty cheap. Less relievers are now more expensive. So if you're the Athletics, you could say, well, Mason Miller might have fetched me a number 10 and a number 15 prospect in the system. I'm just throwing that out there. Well, now maybe he can fetch me a number 5 and a number 10, because you can say, hey, what, are you going to go to the Guardians and get Clase? Yeah, have fun, bro. You can't pitch until the end of August. So it changes the market significantly that one of the big players, one of the Phillies' biggest need positions, is effectively off the trade market. We'll see if some team wants to take a flyer, but it will be a team that is a whole lot more desperate than the Philadelphia Phillies. There are other options out there. So Clase is off the table, and that basically takes the Guardians off the table entirely. Now, there were some other names with the Guardians that were being brought up, but the main one after Emmanuel Clase was Steven Kwan. And it doesn't seem like the Guardians have any interest in trading Kwan at all. Now, Kwan would have filled the outfield need of the Philadelphia Phillies. You would have been able to bring him in here, get solid defense, get a really, really good contact hitter against both lefties and righties. So handedness doesn't even matter when you have a guy like Kwan. Now, the pop isn't really there, but the average is. Now, some people may look at this and say, well, Kwan may just be the major league current version of Justin Crawford. And you already have Justin Crawford, so why would you go out and trade more assets for Kwan and bring him in here and waste some prospects when you could already just call up Justin Crawford and handle things that way? You could, and maybe that's why the Phillies don't do like a contact hitting outfielder type of move. But outside of Clase, Kwan is the only other guy on the Guardians that remotely fits with what the Philadelphia Phillies are looking to do. And all the reports out of Cleveland are they are not interested in moving him because he's under team control for a while, and he's a really nice player. And the Guardians are not in this full-on tank sell mode. We're going to be terrible for the next 3 years, so let's just load up on prospects. Like, no, they're just having a tough year in the Central because the Tigers are all of a sudden one of the best teams on the planet. So I do all this to basically say take the Guardians, put a big X through them. If you were building out that weird board with the yarn strings that detectives have and all the kitschy, like what is it? I guess procedural drama TV shows or whatever. You know the board I'm talking about. I don't need to explain any further, where they're connecting the clues. Take the Guardians, cross them out. They're no longer on the suspects list for teams that the Phillies could trade for. That's just it. Their two guys are basically off the market because Kwan's not moving. Clase may move to a more desperate team, but he just absolutely tanked his value to any team trading for him. And this is what Dave Dombrowski talked about when he said last week, hey, we've got 10 days to the deadline? Yeah, that's a long time. Well, clearly, because in the last, I don't know, couple of hours, the whole market just shifted on relievers. And it's going to become more and more volatile as more and more moves get made. The Phillies haven't really done anything yet. They signed David Robertson. They traded cash for a minor league pitcher, right? Or sorry, minor league outfielder. So we'll see. But I'm only really going to heavily, by the way, break down the major league trades for the Phillies, guys that I don't care who's going to Lehigh unless it gives us some idea of who's coming up. And that's all rumors, so I don't really buy it. Like that's connecting, reading tea leaves. So we'll do the big trades for sure. But the Phillies haven't done any yet, and the Guardians are now off the board. So you're starting to get the sniff that the Thursday trade deadline at 6 p.m., it's Monday right now as I'm recording this, things are starting to get into motion. We'll see how aggressive Dave Dombrowski is going to be, but we're very close. Tomorrow, not only will we react to game one of the Phillies White Sox series, which we're going to preview coming up next, we're going to take a look at maybe the most likely trade partner for the Philadelphia Phillies, and they're just across the state. We'll talk Pittsburgh Pirates tomorrow. We've already done Orioles and Twins, so you can go back to Friday's episode to hear that. But take the Guardians off the board, put the White Sox on the board. Not for, well, I guess for a trade too. We may have to talk about them at some point this week before the deadline. But we're definitely going to talk about them coming up next because the Phillies are in town to face the White Sox. Sweep zone? We'll take a look at it as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Let's talk about game day hue first because they are absolutely great. They make clean, no logo gear with team-inspired colorways for every pro and college fan base. If you're watching on YouTube right now, this hat right here, yeah, this is a game day hue hat. They're nice enough to send it over along with another hat, along with golf gloves. I wore this up to the Bronx this weekend. I was repping the Phillies. I was wearing this hat. Guess what? There's no logo on this hat, so it looks smooth and clean. It's not like gaudy, but there was no doubt what team I was rooting for while I was up there. No, they knew. Phillies fans stopping, saying hi, go Phils, go Birds, all of that, even though it's a maroon hat that fit in well. And I wore the throwback jerseys, the powder blues with some maroon notes in there, and this hat matched perfectly. So they got everything. It's all about letting your color speak for you. Again, no giant logos, just smart, versatile style that works on game day, on the course, or anywhere in between. It pairs perfectly with your team's main logo colors. You can pick between those colors and they'll get that all squared away for it. They've already matched everything. So you don't have to worry about like seeing a hat online saying that kind of looks like the right color, ordering it shows up, it's a shade off. No. Game Day Hue's main thing is making sure they get the shades right. They always do. And again, it's not just hats. Check out their split shade gloves made for the golf course or the perfect gift for the fan who has everything. So maybe if you have a Phillies polo, you can get the Phillies colored golf glove from Game Day Hue. They've got so much. And right now you can get 15% off with code MLB15 at GameDayHue.com. That's GameDayHue.com. The code even stacks on bundle deals, so now's the time to load up. Let your colors talk because colors speak louder than words. That's GameDayHue.com. Code MLB15. Phils take on the White Sox for 3 games up in the Windy City. They're on the south side of Chicago. And we'll see if the Phillies can continue to build their offensive momentum. They had a great final game of offense against the Red Sox. Final score 9-8 in the final game of that series. I'd be like, Connor, that was Sunday or Wednesday or whenever it was. I don't even know. It was so long ago. Well, they followed up that 8-run loss performance with a 12-run win performance, 9-run win performance. They only scored 3 yesterday, but Carlos Rodon, who threw for the Yankees, normally has their number, so you'll take 3. Bottom line is this: the Phillies' offense is rolling right now, and the White Sox at 38 and 68 are about as easy of competition as you can get this side of Colorado. So, are we going into this series looking for the Phillies to sweep? Again, I don't really like to do that. I don't really like to do they have to win all 3 of these games type of thing, but they absolutely have to win the series. You got Christopher Sanchez throwing tonight. That is must-watch TV every time he takes them out. He is an absolute tank. He's facing off against Davis Martin. We're going to preview the other games of the series as we get deeper. We'll do that as the days come along, but you have Luzardo throwing tomorrow, and then it's going to be Taijuan Walker throwing on Wednesday, the final day before the trade deadline. The Phil's off on Thursday, so the trade deadline is all we're going to have to focus on Thursday. So that's a very nice thing. Works out pretty well for the Philadelphia Phillies fan that you can just zone in on the moves that other teams in your team are making. But my point is this: you don't have your best pitching matchups in this series. So I'm not coming into this saying the Phils better sweep. I'm coming into this saying the Phils have an awesome opportunity to sweep. They are much better than this team. And it kind of stinks to watch them win 2 out of 3 against Boston, lose the finale. 2 out of 3 against the Yankees, lose the finale. And both of those major opportunities to win those games. So they're right on the cusp of sweeping. And while I think just winning series is good enough, Mets go out and they sweep the Giants out in San Francisco over the weekend, take a 1.5 game lead in the division, right? It makes a difference if you can do that. Now, it's not fair expectation because every team has those weird games, one-offs in series or one-offs in weeks or whatever. So, again, even in Colorado Rockies series this year, I very tentatively said sweep this team. With Walker throwing, with Luzardo throwing, a couple of question marks right now in the Phillies rotation, I'm willing to say the expectation for this is win 2 out of 3, but they have to. And then they come back home, and that would be a successful road trip. To go to New York, take 2 out of 3, go to Chicago, take 2 out of 3. And the other thing that's really big about this series, this is Dave Dombrowski's final time. Now, I know he's been evaluating all season long. This is not just the trade deadline sneaking up on him. But if there are any guys on the Major League roster that you're thinking about replacing via trade, moving on from via a roster decision of some sort, whether that's a trade, a DFA, whatever, sending down, this is the final chance you have to evaluate your team before you have to say, this is how all in I'm going on them. And it's very important. So Dave Dombrowski will be watching closely. Other teams will be watching the Phillies closely because there may be players on the Major League roster that are part of deals. A guy like Brandon Marsh, a guy like Max Kepler, to open up a spot in the outfield for Justin Crawford to come up. There are a lot of possibilities this time of year, which is why these series will be watched very closely by executives, by fans alike. And while you're not going to learn too much about the ceiling of the Phillies from 3 games against the 30 games under 500 White Sox, it is like these individual performances that could make last-minute impacts on the price of a player at a trade deadline. They may also be peeking in at Luis Robert, who I guess will throw in one of these segments previewing games. We'll throw in the Chicago White Sox trade deadline conversation because Luis Robert is once again on the market. Coin flip chance he gets traded. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. He hasn't been very good since he was first in trade talks. The Phillies are lucky they didn't make that move for him when they did. Maybe you can get him for a significantly discounted price. But you'll get a close-up look at Luis Robert, so I'm sure Phillies fans will be watching him closely. Tonight's game, tomorrow's, Wednesdays, to be like, does this guy fit on our team? Are the numbers lying a little bit? Because if you're watching White Sox games this year, if you're a Phillies fan, the numbers aren't the only thing that's lying. None of us have been watching the guy, right? I'm not watching Chicago White Sox baseball. I have a soul. So tonight, with the Phillies playing them, we will be forced to. We'll keep an eye on Luis Robert to see if he can fit in. But the other great thing about tonight is you get to see Christopher Sanchez in a little bit of a bounce-back performance. Not for him. No, he went complete game shutout the game before, right? Complete game 1 earned. He did go up the home run. But he was a monster in that 12 strikeouts, tank performance by him. This is the follow-up. Sometimes when you see guys go complete game, have all these strikeouts, throw all these pitches, the next start is a little bit of a step back. Maybe it will be. But at the same time, Zack Wheeler had a bit of a rough performance on Sunday in New York. So today, Christopher Sanchez probably feels like, hey, okay, I'm the number 2 guy in this rotation right now. I need to step up and make things happen for my team. I need to bail out my ace. Not that Zack Wheeler needs bailing out, but I think Sanchez probably feels a strong need to get on the right track in a very winnable series and go out there and dominate. The White Sox offense is not good, right? They don't really have too many guys you have to worry about. The pitching matchup, hugely in favor of Christopher Sanchez. I mean, Davis Martin has not been bad this year. He's got a 3.89 ERA, but he strikes out nobody. In 85 2/3 innings, he has 56 strikeouts. He's got a 2-8 record. He's given up 12 home runs, which is somewhat respectable for where the bar should be for White Sox starting pitchers, but they're not very good. Their starting pitching is not very good. Their offense is not very good. The best hitter on their team by average is Lenyn Sosa, who is batting .264. That's their highest batting average for a qualified batter. Andrew Benintendi has got 13 home runs. and 42 RBIs. Both of those lead the team. Kyle Schwarber has 23 more homers, and he has 42 more RBIs. This is just a bad baseball team, and the Phillies should go up to Chicago and win 2 of 3. And then if you get that opportunity for a sweep in Game 3, Taijuan Walker take the wheel. God only knows what's going to happen. But, hey, I did question whether or not he was going to ruin my trip to New York on Friday night when he gave those 2 home runs in the first 2 innings. Settled in. Phillies won that game comfortably. So maybe we need to have the faith that a sweep is indeed possible, the Chicago White Sox, but faith that the Phillies will actually do it. We'll react to tonight's game on tomorrow's episode, talk more trade deadline. We'll also talk about a weird Bryce Harper-Rob Manfred interaction that broke down. We'll get into that. But it was a busy episode recapping the weekend. Thank you to everybody for following along to the Locked On Phillies content as I made my trip up to New York. And thank you for watching, listening to today's episode. Once again, we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us out. And I'll talk to you tomorrow on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.